Me again. A lot of that Renaissance discussion apparently did not record. Okay? My little red light on this microphone lanyard doesn't stay red very good very long. So fiddlesticks. Let's go back and do the Renaissance again, guys. I'm so sorry. So here's the lecture on the Renaissance. Second time through has to be perfect, right? The Renaissance starts, give or take, about 1500, after the Middle Ages kinds of fades. The Renaissance is a time of people pursuing the best. They're people pursuing opulence, indulgence, what they wish to acquire, to do, to make themselves happy. Okay? That's very important. The notion of skill, S-K-I-L-L, in the Renaissance time meant that people pursue that which they are good at doing. Okay? And again, it's an indulgent kind of thing. Skills might include the God-given talents of being a writer, a poet, an architect, a singer, a playwright, a sculptor, all of these things that enriched society. And these were God-given talents, and so people sought to perfect their skills, their virtues, V-I-R-T-U-E-S. Remember back in the Middle Ages, people were very concerned about their relationship with God and living for God. In the Renaissance time, it's more about the me. It's more about the I. What will make me happy? God gives me talents, and it's my responsibility to use them, not necessarily praise Him for them. See the diff? In the Renaissance, people were very, very interested in old things, like ancient manuscripts from Greece or Rome, history books from Rome, philosophical treatises from Greece. People were fascinated by anything old. During the Renaissance time, it was important that people learned as much as they could. University systems became more ingrained and more universities came to be. Public education, not just for collegiate people or university-bound people, but ordinary people could have an education. That's kind of amazing. Medical treatment, medical research really came to be improved during the Renaissance. I mean, there's no MD Anderson Cancer Center, but we do understand a little bit more about how the body functions and about ways to heal the body when it needs that. During the Renaissance time period, the world doubles in size. What happens in 1492? Columbus sails the ocean blue. So we have got the world being expanded, doubled, just in the length of Columbus's trip across the Atlantic Ocean. People traveled, explored, tried to find other countries, mainly to find a passage to the east, to the Orient. People wanted to acquire fine silks available in Japan and in China. They wanted to acquire spices that were available and very expensive, that things were available in Japan and in China. And in turn, people wanted those things, for themselves, but to sell those things to other Europeans. During the Renaissance time, commerce developed. Trade developed, not only in Europe and in Africa and in the Middle East, but in China and Japan, South America, North America. Explorers like Columbus and Magellan sailed across the Pacific Ocean specifically to find what's out there. What can we take advantage of? What does the New World, other worlds have that we don't have, that we could acquire and make some money on? Okay? How many people in these new worlds can we convert to Catholicism? Because the more we turn into Catholics, the better our chances to get to heaven. Right? Right. So it was very important to conquer, but there really weren't very many wars during the Renaissance. Not like in the Middle Ages, where your prominent feature of Middle Ages literature is the fighting king, the guy with the sword. Okay? Renaissance was more peaceful. It was more of an indulgent, think about me kind of time. People sought to indulge themselves, to seek beauty, to seek education. People traveled a lot. The development of commerce and trade and business certainly allowed for a middle class to develop, a working class to develop too. And so people who owned businesses were able to reap a profit from what they sold. They were able to hire workers, and so upper middle class people came into existence, and they had money to burn. They'd build a summer home in the Alps. They'd go on vacation to France. They would send their kids to school. They would indulge themselves in beautiful garments, fancy dyes, fancy wine, fancy food. There were a lot of animals imported from Africa. A lot of fowl like peacock and guineas and exotic kinds of birds imported so that people could eat something different and more royal and more unique. Try to outdo your neighbor, kind of like. What's I going to say? Must have been a lie. Okay, so anyway, during the Renaissance, it kind of changed. Life kind of changed. We have a class system developing, which had never happened before. We have the invention, this is what I was going to say, we had the invention of the printing press. Gutenberg, G-U-T-T-E-N-B-U-R-G, G-U-T-T-E-N-B-U-R-G, invented the printing press. No longer did scribes have to sit and write a page and write a page and write a page and write a page. It's so expensive to get anything published or to purchase it to read. And the majority of people in the Middle Ages could not read. They didn't have the educational opportunities that people in the Renaissance came to have. With the printing press, you could mechanically publish a book. It made it cheaper to buy. It made writers more eager to publish, to write. People who are now businessmen involved in commerce and trade, they got leisure time because they've got employees to do their work for them. There is leisure time, so they can learn to read, and they can learn about fine things and history, and they'll read poetry, and they'll go to plays, etc. The two most important literary genres during the Renaissance was the lyric poem. Lyric poetry is an outpouring of emotion by the speaker of the poem. We talked about that in ancient Greek times. The lyric poem is the outpouring of emotion of the speaker. The second important genre during the Renaissance time was the drama, especially in England and in Spain. Those are your two hotbeds of drama production. And of course, who jazzed up drama during the Renaissance time? Introduced the second stage in the development of drama. The first was in ancient Greek days, and William Shakespeare revitalized drama about the time of the Renaissance. He lived during the Renaissance. And he greatly influenced writers all over the world, especially in Europe, especially in Spain. And we'll talk about a couple of Spanish authors, Spanish playwrights. So that kind of, in a nutshell, wow, a really small nutshell, is the Renaissance. And so thank you for listening. Thus ends the second lecture of the 10 that I'm going to record for you. Remember to have these done by September 6th. Thanks. I'll see you for 2 in a minute or 2.